Okay, good evening, everybody. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mark Witness 1, and we are on the air. And let me turn my thing on. The first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce our new mascot. Uh, Her name is tentatively going to be Taz or Babe. We haven't really. Baby, yeah. But this is Baby the cat. So this will be our new mascot. And as you can see, she's a little bit on the reckless side. But she's a good shoulder cat, as you can see. She likes sticking her tail in my nose and everything. And she'll be 8 weeks old coming up. And mother's down there reading. Okay, I got a show to do there, young one. And mother. Uh, oh my God. Yeah. And here's Mama. Y'all know Mittens the cat. That's Mama. And so Mittens, you go your way. And of course, we can't leave Amber out of this. Good old Amber. She's the star of the show. She's been around the longest. So she kind of weighs high. Okay, everybody, it's time for me to do my thing. Okay. Anyway, let's see who's making a comment. All right. Hi, Laurie. Welcome. I'm glad to see you in here. We got a whole three pups and kittens and pumps. It's becoming a regular zoo around here. And we have a grand total of three. So it's going to be a light night, but everybody can listen to the playback. Now, the reason I'm here tonight, rather than watching my shows on TV, which I've got a full calendar of TV shows, is The Interloper. And The Interloper has put up something rather interesting on his social media account. And what this is something familiar for him and also kind of proof of what I've been saying about him all along. So now let me find the beginning here. Okay. As you know, this young lady has been trying to get an audience with Senator Jim Jordan on this committee that he has. And hi, Rebecca. And the only problem is the committee has already met, and I don't know if they're going to meet again. This is the weaponization thing that the Republicans are accusing um, the big media of doing. And so Jesse here, who is somebody that I have not been paying attention to, decided that she wants to go before the Congress and give out all her little conspiracy theories. Well, come to find out that Jesse put my name in the report. So that means that I'm going to be writing a letter to Mr. Jordan saying that if Jesse, whatever her last name is, decides or is granted an audience before Congress, I want a chance to get up there and testify as to how my name got put into all this. And one example that I will be sending the senator is this piece of work. Um, oh, this isn't it. Let me get down. Okay, here we go. Now, this thing came up uh, on Telegram and also over on the specific um, YouTube channel that is kind of. Okay, I lost my train of thought. I should quit reading the chat while live streaming. Uh, but anyway, um, Tim Holmseth has once again accused me of murder, this time of an elderly couple in the state of Kentucky. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up. Now, what's strange is this particular case, um, the way it was reported is that there seems to be a theory as this case out of Kentucky and also the case in Delphi, Indiana, might have a connection. And so what I'm going to do is, if I can get the audio to work, is I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to explain the situation after this is complete. And here we go.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
One of Boone County's most horrific killings remains unsolved. It's 12 years later, but the detectives working the Stevenson case are leaving no stone unturned. In recent months, their investigation has led them even to Indiana to look at a possible connection to this highly publicized Delphi murders.
Yeah, Jessica Schmidt digs into these new developments in part one of this story from Cincinnati's Crime Vault.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner make up Boone County's cold case unit, yet they say the murder of Bill and Peggy Stevenson is far from cold. In fact, they've traveled to at least 14 other states to follow up on leads, including several trips to Delphi, Indiana. And they're pursuing potential breaks in the case using a DNA profile.
May 29th, 2011 was a sunny Sunday in the suburbs.
It was a spring day, like most around here in northern Kentucky.
But the day quickly turned dark after a gruesome discovery.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
Two people, both 74 years old, were found dead inside their Boone County home. A beloved husband and wife, Bill and Peggy Stevenson. A concerned family member found them when they didn't show up for church.
We think it was, a very quick surprise attack. There was some blunt force trauma.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner Tim Adams were sent to the scene. The house had been altered and the bodies were staged.
There were things that were done to their bodies that was horrific. They changed several things in the scene, which is really, really unusual for any murder scene anywhere in the country or in the world.
Whoever killed the couple did not take off right away.
There was quite a bit of time that the perpetrators, the killers, stayed in the residence or felt comfortable coming back to the scene.
In general, detectives believe that kind of behavior points to a suspect who knows the victims. And Bill and Peggy Stevenson were loved by many.
They were amazing people, good Christian people. They wanted to share their faith and their love with the community.
And they've missed out on so much. They've missed out on weddings. They've missed out on 3 new great-grandbabies, graduations, like I said, weddings of the grandkids. All the grandkids are married.
That's Bill and Peggy's daughter, Beth Stevenson Victor. She describes her parents as devoted churchgoers, a couple who loved their big family. Peggy was the quiet one, an experienced and talented musician.
Played for many weddings, funerals, played for a couple of the grandkids' weddings. She loved to play the organ. She played the piano too.
Bill was the opposite, known as the life of the party, a man heavily involved in ministry. He shared his faith with truck drivers every Sunday at a truck stop in Florence.
They had a trailer out that they would open up during the week, and if truckers wanted to stop in and pray, they would pray with them.
That connection to the community became a possible lead for detectives Cox and Adams. Today, they handle the sheriff's cold case unit, but they're still investigating the Stevenson case. Over the years, they've interviewed a lot of truck drivers.
Early on in the investigation, we had information that someone had been at the truck stop looking for Bill pretty aggressively, banging on the door of the chapel, asking if anyone had seen Bill.
There are truckers they've ruled out, others still on their radar. They've also looked into Charles Stevie Stevenson, the nephew of Bill and Peggy. Detective Cox says they've even spoken to him recently. Stevie is locked up, spending life in prison for beating an Indiana woman to death with a skillet.
We feel pretty comfortable that that's in a good place. There is no final statement on there. It isn't that he's been cleared, but we have certainly vetted him in every way possible.
One of the largest developments in the case could still bring them the break they need to close it. Detective Cox says they have an unknown DNA profile.
We don't know who that DNA belongs to, and it was found at our crime scene.
It is complex, so genealogy isn't an option, at least right now. There is testing they can do to try to find a match, and that's something they're actively pursuing.
We're just still hopeful that they'll come up with the right evidence that they need, and a confession would be great. But we're still hopeful that they'll solve it.
More than a decade later, tips continue to come in. Detectives even traveled across state lines in recent weeks to see if what happened to the Stevensons has any connection to the murder of two young girls in Delphi.
We had received some information from an individual regarding the Delphi murders in Indiana, and they had said, for all of these reasons, we believe it may be the same person that was involved in the Stevenson case.
There's still much more to share. In part 2, we'll explain what detectives are doing now with that DNA profile, and we'll tell you exactly what led them to Delphi and what's happening now with that lead. Plus, Bill and Peggy's daughter shares more about the impact this tragedy has had on the family. Part 2 is at 10:30.
Alrighty, let me. Okay, well, I hope my audio is working. Now, the reason that Tim decided to hone in on me, of course, is that I'm a truck driver. And he still has this burr up his ass that I have a connection to the Delphi case. And now he's reeling in this case out of Kentucky. And that he has actually gone and proactively got involved by putting this up on his Telegram channel. Now, what this says is I'm being asked if detectives at the Boone County Sheriff's Office in Kentucky are investigating a Florida truck driver named William Kevin Murtaugh regarding the Stephenson murders, as well as any possible connection to the Delphi murders. I do, in fact, have information regarding Boone County. I can say the matters is multi-jurisdictional and involves the state of Ohio. I can confirm it involves Jessie Marie, whatever her last name is. I cannot pronounce her name. Now, this means that once again, Timothy Charles Holmseth is accusing or implying that I'm involved in yet another double murder case. Now, since the last decade or more, Tim Holmseth has implicated me in the murder of children, multiple children. We have Trenton Duckett, Kaylee Anthony, um, Haley Cummings, had me somehow involved with the John Benet Ramsey case. He says I'm a gangster by the name of Whitey Bulger, and it goes on and on and on and on. Now, in his article that appeared over on Telegram, he mentions DNA. Well, here's the thing. Um, if he wants uh, to implicate me in this case, fine. But there's something that, of course, was mentioned in this article or in this video, and that is that DNA will clear me. And the simple reason is they would do a DNA test if they were to contact me. I say, fine, have at it. I'll give you blood, I'll give you my DNA, I'll give you whatever you want. You can have my fingerprints, you name it, I'll give it to you. And this is where Timothy trips up. Because if these investigators come to me and say, we need your DNA, they take the DNA and they do a test. And this happens all because Timothy Charles Holmseth and his partner here implicated me in this thing. And then the test turns out to be negative. Timmy has the potential of being in a lot of trouble, especially if he is also over at Delphi, Indiana, giving law enforcement over there the same information. He puts all the stuff on his various social media sites, and so does this other individual, um, to republish this stuff. And it creates a liability problem for the both of them because they are directly interloping, interfering in all of these high profile murder cases. And this is wasting law enforcement's time because they have to, especially in this cold case in Kentucky, investigate all these leads regardless of how ridiculous they are. So if those morons call up the state of Kentucky and say William Kevin Murtaugh is a viable suspect in your case in Boone County, Kentucky, they're gonna investigate it. And they would probably get a hold of local law enforcement down here in Florida and have them do the questioning on their behalf. That's the way these things usually work. And the same goes for Delphi, Indiana, because if Kentucky gets involved in investigating me, then you can expect Delphi, Indiana to do the same. And so I'd have all these law enforcement agencies calling Orange County to have them question me on their behalf. And I'm going to say, hey, let's take some DNA samples, send them up to both of these agencies, and let them deal with it. Now, you guys can run an FBI grade background check and so on to find out if I have any criminal records. And there are ways of checking with the American Truckers Association to find out exactly where I was at that time if I was still driving truck. Now, this is a 12-year-old case, which would put this back right in the middle of both the Trenton Duckett case and the the Kaylee Anthony case. Now, I have 4,000 people that can testify that I was on the air in the Orlando area for those 2 years. And this would be rather hard to prove that I was in Kentucky for this one case. Now, this is the problem with these people. They come up with these wild theories, they rehash them, and they know that if their leads, as they call them, take hold, they're going to find the law enforcement is going to find out that they've been played. And depending on how irate law enforcement gets, they can go after Tim and his little gang of gaslighters and post criminal charges for obstructing these two cases. And right now, I would think that this is up to 6 or 7 cases that these people are meddling in. And eventually, they're going to piss off the wrong law enforcement agency because they're tying up resources on these false leads. And law enforcement is going to say, all right, you're such a smart aleck. We're going to give you a felony warrant. You can come up here to Delphi, Indiana, or over into Boone County, Kentucky, and you can get up here and give us this information that you have about Mr. Murtaugh. Excuse me, trying to suppress a burp. And if this little campaign of yours turns out to be uh, an act of malicious intent, you are going to go to jail. So I dare Timothy Charles Holmeseth, Jesse, that Truth Punisher, and the Canadians, and all those tin hat brains. Call law enforcement, call Delphi, Indiana, call Boone County, and tell them. Investigate William Kevin Murtaugh. Bring your cops down here to Orlando, Florida. Well, Apopka, Florida specifically. Investigate Mr. Murtaugh. Interrogate him. Bring a FBI expert interrogator down here and question me for 8 hours. Take my fingerprints. Take a swab of my DNA. I'll even give you a blood sample because with a fresh blood sample, you can do a better DNA test than a swab because it has the strongest DNA. It'll have my blood type in case there's blood evidence at the scene. There's all kinds of evidence that they can collect on me personally uh, to help them in their investigation. And what they're going to find out is that they've been played by a bunch of tin hats over on Telegram that don't know their ass from the hole in the ground. Now, I would suggest, which is kind of interesting, if you haven't done so already, get this book. If you can't afford it because it's a little expensive, call your local library and get them to stock it. If you call a local library, they will put this book up for checkout. You can also go over to Audible on Amazon, sign up for 3 months free sample, get this book for free, and listen to it. Because Timothy Charles Holmeseth is mentioned a lot in this book. I've gone halfway through it. I've read the parts about Kim Picasio. I've read the parts about Cynthia Absug, and also the parts about the E-Clause murder. And I'll have some more information on that, by the way. You're going to love this one. But Timmy wanted to be famous. He wanted national attention. Well, he got it in this book. And I can guarantee you that none of those morons over there have read this book. But this book does more than talk about Tim Holmeseth, Kim Picasio, Alexander Goddard, who got mentioned in the book. They get into, or Will gets into how QAnon came about, how it manages to brainwash these people, and what's going on right up until the present time. He does a thorough, detailed investigation of everyone that's in that book, and there is stuff in there that you would be amazed that he's managed to uncover. And I was shocked to find out how much Kim Picasio had gone through because of Tim Homestead. It came out in the book, something that she did not even tell me about that happened to her, all because of Timothy Charles Homestead. And so I highly recommend and plead with you to get that book however you can, read it, listen to it, and spread the word that everybody should read this book, both on the Democrat side, the Republican side, the far left, and the far right, because this explains what's been going on for the last 10 years when it comes to these QAnons and the pig farmer from the Philippines. Now, I'm going to put this up because Laurie was kind enough to put it up there, but that is the link to the book. And that way you can order it. Now, I've got two items that are breaking news. The first one everybody knows about, but I'm going to play this important segment here. And let me get this queued up. And I'm going to take myself out of the shot. And we'll see if this goes through. Okay. The verdict has come in against this clown. And so I'm going to play this, or try to play it. And let me see. Yeah, I got to bring this up a little bit to play it. And this is about 10 minutes long, and this gets into the verdict of this lawyer from the Carolinas.
That's Alex Murdaugh there waiting for the verdict. The jury, we understand, has a verdict in this case. This is live, what you're watching right now. Judge Newman, who is presiding, has asked the jury to come in, which is happening elsewhere in this room. And you are looking at Alex Murdaugh here awaiting news of his fate. 4 felony counts, 2 for the murder of his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul. Convicted, the minimum sentence would be 30 years to life. They've indicated they will not go for the death penalty.
Thank you. Madam Forlady, if you'll stand for me. Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, sir, we have.
Is it unanimous?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, if you will pass it up to the clerk, who will pass it to me. And you may be seated. The defendant will rise. Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdict, starting with the back, not with the, let's see, tell you again. Starting with the back, flipping them over one by one. State of South Carolina versus.
Docket number 2022 GS 15-00592, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions in the term of 2022, July, the State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Okay. Guilty verdict. signed by the forelady, 3/2/23. Docket number 2022-GS-15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the July term of 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the forelady. Date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022-GS15-00595. The State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. SC Code -16-23-0490. CDR Code 0549. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. Date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022-GS-15-00594. The State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. SC Code 16-23-0490. CDR Code 0549. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the foreperson of the jury, 3/2/23.
Thank you. Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is the verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hands. All right, thank you. Any individual polling requested? Madam Clerk, you'll need to individually poll the jury according to their juror numbers.
Number 193. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 254.
Yep.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 326. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 530. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 544.
Yes.
Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 572. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 578. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 589. Was this your verdict? Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 630. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 729. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 826. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 864. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
Thank you. The jury has been polled and the verdict is a unanimous verdict. If you will bring the alternate juror out and have her have a seat in the audience, please. You can stand there or you can sit back there, whatever you prefer. Okay. Are there any post-trial motions?
From the state, Your Honor.
We would just renew our previously argued motions for a directed verdict, and at this, on the grounds, on those grounds, we would Make a motion for a mistrial and to set aside the verdict.
By the state, response.
Your Honor, based on our previous arguments, we would submit that the case properly went to the jury and the verdict is proper, and would rely on those arguments.
We've been here now 28 days, first few days of jury selection, and the remainder receiving testimony, an overwhelming amount of testimony and evidence that was presented to the jury for the jury's consideration. As I indicated to the jury during the jury charge, or the charge on the law, that this was a matter solely for the jury to determine. The court found at the end of the state's case that there's sufficient evidence to find the defendant guilty if the evidence was believed by the jury. Likewise, at the end of the defense's case, when the motion was renewed, the court found that the evidence was sufficient for the jury to find the defendant guilty. The jury has now considered the evidence for a significant period of time, and the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, and I deny the motion. Mr. Murtaugh, you now having been found guilty of 2 counts of murder involving your wife and your son, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, the burden now comes upon the court to impose a sentence. Given the lateness of the hour and the victim's rights that must be taken into consideration and complied with under the Victim's Bill of Rights, and consider what I would anticipate to be a number of people who might have something to say regarding sentencing, we will defer sentencing to a later date. Of course, the minimum sentence for murder is 30 years. The maximum sentence is life imprisonment as to each count. And on the weapons charge, the sentence is up to 5 years, or 5 years, which has to be concurrent if a life sentence is imposed.
Okay, well, there we have it. This was probably the least surprising trial that I've ever seen. Everybody had him as guilty, and it's like the judge said, the evidence was overwhelming. And this just, why this guy did what he did, I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention to the trial, but, it's just, someone to do something like this. It's just, I don't get it. But moving on. Now, there has been one of the funniest things to come across my email account over the past couple days, and one of them has to do with the E-Clause murder and the upcoming trial of Neely Petrie Blanchard. Now, from time to time, the Ocala court will release discovery evidence. And the discovery evidence that was released on January 23rd was originally sealed. They do this. They'll put it up on the docket, the supplemental discovery, and then they wait a few days before they release it. And since I always request that when these things go up, I want to be notified when they're released, and they automatically send me the notice, which I got. And this is what I got. Now, if you look closely, you're going to see the name Kirk Pendergrass. Now, as you know, Smirky Kirky, as he's affectionately known, has been deposed by the court through the state of Idaho, and he was questioned in the deposition. Now, that deposition has not been made public, probably will not. It will be used in the court. But he's going to, by the time he gets done, this guy is never going to see the light of day, Mr. Murdo. Now, what you need to look at is the tangible evidence. And you will see jail call. 5 jail calls from Petrie Blanchard to Kirk Pendergrass. And, they got his phone number in there. I didn't see that, or I would have taken it out, but it's too late now. But basically, that means that these 2 individuals had been calling each other, or she'd been calling him anyway. And what these brilliant people don't realize is that any calls that are made out of a jail is recorded. So they recorded these 5 phone calls. Now, what's going to be interesting to see in mid-May when this starts is, why is Neely calling Smirky Kirky? And I've already put in a FOIA for it, that the minute this thing comes available, I'm going to get a copy of it, because this will probably come out just before the trial. Once they have the jury selected and they announce a court date, they will probably release all this discovery evidence. And it's going to be the same thing that happened during the Casey Anthony trial, where you can get everything. You can get any letters that are either sent out by Neely Blanchard or that she receives. And any phone calls that she receives or any phone calls that she makes to anyone other than her attorney is public information. Florida is real good about that. And so Smirky Kirky is going to get himself really famous, because he's stupid enough to be taking these phone calls from the Ocala, Marion County Jail. So we're going to find out what she has to say about Smirky Kirky and what Smirky Kirky had to say both in his deposition and in all these phone calls. Now, this is not the first time we've had phone calls come in as evidence in this trial. As you may recall, way back, one of the first things to come out was that some lady had gone to visit Neely Blanchard, and she had one of these audio recorders inside of a pen. It's these novelty things that you can get off Amazon and Wish and so forth. And she recorded a conversation between her and Neely Blanchard. Now, of course, Marion County already made a recording of their own, but here we had this woman come in and record Neely on one of these things. Now, that's a violation of the law. That woman can be screwed. It may be something that the defense lawyer can file a motion to have quashed. They can't quash the recording that the county jail makes, but they can quash the recording on that pen. I don't know what good that's going to do them, but it can be done. But this case is shaping up to be one of the weirder ones in the state of Florida. I mean, Florida's already weird with some of the stuff they do, and now they're going to be weird when it comes to these actions and the evidence that's coming out in the E-Clause murder trial. So, we have now all this going on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign back in because I want to make sure that we're still on schedule with the trial. I think we still are. But one thing I'm going to do, there's a interesting letter that came on. Well, scratch the Blanchard thing. I'm going to find this letter. Because this is something that was submitted. I saw it over on the internet and I picked it up. Let me go down here because this is where I originally found it. So just be patient with me. Because this is an interesting. See if I can. Well, it was up here. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah. Oh darn! I missed out on that. I gotta see. I may have to do this on a different thing because I've got that notification. I just gotta find it because this is interesting. So I'm going into an alternative source here. Okay, what happened to... All right, it's not going to be on this phone. Maybe it's on this one. Well, I think what you're going to find is that everyone may wind up being involved. Remember, there was a witness list that was made early on, and Tim Holmseth's name has appeared on there along with some other people. So there is a good possibility that we're going to have some more phone interviews or interviews of some kind be done. And Mr. Holmseth may find himself in the middle of it. So we'll see. But I'm trying to see where that file went. And if I don't find it in this session, I will find it in a subsequent session and put it up because this is rather interesting. So it was a press release, I believe. But I will tell you that, there are a lot of interesting things have come out about Jesse. And there is a Telegram account, The Truth About Jesse, that you should all check because it's rather intriguing what's over there. And then you can make up your own mind. I hadn't really paid much attention to this, but now that Jesse has decided to put my name down on court documents, I'm going to be paying a lot more attention to Miss Jessie. And I've already notified law enforcement about what she's up to, and the same law enforcement officials I've been working with in regards to Tim Holmseth and Randy Erickson. So And I've noticed there's some things that's been happening over on Telegram that these people are demonstrating that they are extremely nervous with this channel. And so that's where I'm at so far. That for some reason, certain actions have been taken over on Telegram. And that's weird. Anyway, yeah, I got sidetracked because I'm trying to figure out something strange that's going on. Well, what this is the start of the process. This is one of the reasons this trial's been delayed, is because both the prosecution and the defense want to talk to other people that were somehow involved in the Blanchard case or had associations with Neely Blanchard. Now, there's the possibility that Field McConnell may have to have one of these interviews, and anyone around Neely Blanchard. I believe they've already talked to the woman that was dating Mr. Elliott. So, or Chris Elliott, or whatever the hell his name is. My memory's shot today. But everybody's going to be talked to that has had some association over time with E-Clause. And so when this all comes to fore and we try to start the trial and everybody decides what evidence that they're going to bring into the trial, we will get to see what is going on. Now, something I will be discussing a little later on is the possible defense that Neely Blanchard is going to argue. This is this innocent by reason of insanity. Florida has both on this. They have innocent by reason of insanity or guilty but insane. Now, defense has made it clear that they're going for an insanity defense because it's clear she committed the crime. Now he's trying to get her. Yeah, Chris Sallet. I'm having a brain fart tonight. Thanks, Lori. But anyway, the defense wants to keep her from getting the death penalty, and B, they want to try and mitigate her sentence to whatever degree they can so that at some point down the road, she might be able to get out on parole. Now, it's this second option that the state is going to fight hard because they want the maximum penalty. Yeah, she killed a man in cold blood. It was premeditated. It took a long time to plan out because she actually drove all the way from Kentucky down to Ocala, Florida. That's a day's drive. Took this weapon, discharged it. The weapon jammed. She unjammed the weapon and finished her job. Now, that's an awfully long time to be insane. So, the jury is going to have to listen to the expert that's called by the defense, and more than likely there will be a expert or two called by the prosecution, and they're going to have to decide if there is reason to believe that she was insane, and if that insanity is mitigating enough for her to have a lesser charge, maybe second degree murder or something like that. So this is going to be an interesting trial to watch in that respect. The Casey Anthony trial demonstrated that you can't count on there being a definite guilty or plea. Everybody that followed that case, at least a majority of people, thought that um, Casey Anthony was guilty and that she was, if not the death penalty, she was going to go to jail for a long time. And she wound up walking away scot free. And naturally, this got a bunch of people riled up. And she is still hated by a lot of people. Now, I reluctantly agreed with the jury in that case because they could not tie a cause of death and connect Casey to it. And, we armchair detectives may sit there and say, yeah, she's guilty, blah, 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 blah. But the jury has to act within the confines of the law. And going by the instructions given to her, the jury in the trial, they had no choice but to acquit. And it's just, it's a strange thing about our form of government or our judicial system that some people that probably should have been found guilty will walk free because of the way the jury interprets the case. That's what they're there for. They are the final arbiters. I do not think this was jury nullification. I think they did their job the best they could. They explained themselves after the trial, and that is that. So when it comes to what happens to Neely Blanchard, that is going to be an interesting thing to follow because anything can happen in this case. Now we had the Tavon Martin case where he walked free, or the shooter walked free in that because of our stand your ground law. That he seemed to think that he was in danger for his life and he shot the kid. I think it's a little extreme, but the subsequent behavior after he was acquitted has to make you wonder if the jury really should have done a little bit more consideration in that case. But be that as it may, he was acquitted. We don't have double jeopardy in this country. So unless he does something stupid, he's free to go. So now, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Getting back to Crazy Timmy and his new flame or whatever the hell she is, they seem to think that if they try hard enough, they're going to get before Mr. Jordan's subcommittee. And yeah, it will be fine if they do. Go ahead and get before the committee because I will be contacting Mr. Jordan and I will let him know that I want to get before his committee as well and explain just why these people keep interjecting my name in these high profile cases and explain to him that there is ironclad concrete proof that I have absolutely nothing to do with anything that Tim Holmseth is accusing me of. And that Tim Holmseth is nuttier than a fruitcake and he needs to be locked up, if not in jail, at least in an insane asylum to figure out why in hell he behaves this way. And the nice thing about the book that Will Summer has written is that there is a lot of expert analysis of people like Holmseth who make up QAnon to explain why they do what they do and why they get away with it and what is in the minds of these people that fawn all over Holmseth and people like him and believe this crap. It's, you know, I've gotten a hell of a lot more understanding about why these people are the way they are. And it's unfortunate that we are in a society where this sort of thing is something that people get away with. There doesn't seem to be a mechanism in place to put a stop to this so that all of us who are innocent of anything don't have to suffer with it. You know, Tim Holseth gets to drive all over the country and he's making tens of thousands of dollars on the backs of all of us. All of us that have been falsely accused and dragged into Timmy's little drama. He's been to Texas. He's been across the country. He's been able to sightsee. He's living high on the hog, and it sounds like he's even getting some mattress time with some female friends that he meets. So I mean, he's you know, if anything, he is proving that honesty is not the best policy. It seems that it's profitable, big time, if you lie to the right audience. And it's these tin hat people over in QAnon land who are the perfect suckers for people like Tim Holseth, that he speaks their language, he believes in what they believe in, and he's got some fancy websites with highly skilled people that know how to manipulate content that are helping him out, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. And in the meantime, he's putting people's lives in hell. He's making you wonder if some vigilante isn't going to come out of the woods and blow you away because you've been accused of being a pedophile and of eating babies and murdering babies, stalking babies at malls, and all this other bull crap. And he has no idea of the harm he's doing. And what I also find out strange is he is actually defending a documented pedophile. He has gone on record saying that the guy that is charged in the murder of those two teenagers is innocent. And he blames me and other people for having a part in these crimes. And, you know, it's not doing justice for these teenagers. And I said before, if Tim Holmseth succeeds in getting a guilty person off because of him barging in his case, then he has demonstrated that he is not defending the children. He is not doing anything on the internet for for the sake of these children. He is doing this for his own fame, his own um glory, to be worshipped by these women on the internet who make love to him over the phone, who kiss his picture that they have as a home screen on their phone, and just call him God's angel and all this other nonsense. In the end, if this guy walks, they will have damaged these children and their children's family that much more. And he apparently does not care. Tim Holmseth does not take the time to understand what is happening because of him. That attention is being taken away from real potential suspects. Now, there's a newspaper article that also delved into this connection theory between the Kentucky and Indiana cases. And what was in that article is that they are interested in truck drivers that are in the state of Indiana right now, that they have truck drivers or suspects that they are looking at very closely. And it's not me, it's not anyone from Ohio, and it's nobody that Holseth has named as a suspect in these crimes. And eventually, this is going to come out. There is going to be a trial in the Delphi case sometime before the end of the year. And when we get into that case, it's going to be clear that Tim Holseth was absolutely and completely wrong. He is going to be shown for the fool that he is. And I will be curious to see what the reaction is of his followers if the suspect in that case is adjudicated guilty, guilty, guilty. And if there's a second person involved, it's going to be someone from that region of the country, and they will be adjudicated guilty, guilty, guilty if everything goes the way it's supposed to. And, there's always a remote possibility that the jury says that they can't establish a connection and these people walk. But it's 95% certain that the authorities in Delphi, Indiana have their man, and he is going to go to jail or worse. So we're just going to have to wait that out. In the meantime, we are going to have to put up with Timmy's nonsense, with Jesse's nonsense, and the nonsense of these deranged individuals over on Telegram. And so I may only have 10 people in this live stream right now, but who knows what's going to happen down the road when the trials start coming closer. And we have one coming right up with the Neely Blanchard case, and we will see what comes out of that. But as I close out, I would recommend highly that you people read Will Summers' book. If you can't afford to buy it, have your library order it. Go and get the free sample of audiobook over on Amazon and let it get read to you. And if you can, buy the book and read it. Take your time. Look at each and every detail in there. And I will be researching some of the people that were mentioned in that book who are experts on what is going on with QAnon. Because now I've got a center point of material that I can go in and study this thoroughly. Mark, thank you for coming in. Thank you for your comments. You're welcome back anytime. And so buy the book, read it. I'm not being paid to promote it. I don't think Will even realizes that I'm promoting it. But I just personally think that it's something people ought to read, because the more you know about QAnon, the better you can defend yourself against it. And hopefully, as more and more people hear about the truth behind QAnon, and the more people that read Will Summers' book, they will realize what an immense fraud QAnon is and the damage that they have done not only to this country, but to the world in general. And so with that, please like, subscribe, hit the notification, and share. And stay tuned. There's more coming down the line. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mark Witness 1. Have a good one. Good night, all.